Hey Internets, it's Emmett from Mini Terrain Domain, and this is the Ghosts of Saltmarsh. Nope, this is Dawnbringers, the Ghosts of Saltmarsh, Season 3, Episode 13, Old Gallows Eve. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our Halloween episode of the Dawnbringers, the Ghosts of Saltmarsh. And as you can see, everybody but me has dressed up as their character. Apparently I didn't get the memo, and just went for whatever I found on the rack. And okay, I literally cannot see anything. Hi, it's really me. I don't know what that sounded like. That cannot have been it sounded great. But I should have just cosplayed as the parents from the Great Pumpkin from the Charlie Brown special. But yes, this is our Halloween special, and all of these awesome Dawnbringers players have dressed as their characters, and that is just amazing. Hopefully we can get some pictures to share later. I believe V shared some on Twitter already of her outfit. Just everybody, it's just awesome to see what you guys have done to bring yourself to this point. And already you have earned yourself a domain die from Starin, who has just returned for 9 months. Thank you, Star19, for that resubscription. So we are going to do a handful of announcements, and then we're going to get into the game. So I'm really excited about this, so I'm going to jump to this one first. Be sure to check out !merch. Type that in the chat, or go down below the stream and you will see a link for merchandise. I just received a sample of the green devil face from our Jolt of Personality game. I just got this in the mail. This will be going on the back window of my truck. And in the mail today, I got a shirt. And I just unplugged my headphones. So I not only can't see anything, I can't hear anything. All right.
So you're pretty much on brand for Emmett.
Really
We're good.
it. There we go.
Yeah.
I couldn't hear all the wonderful things you were obviously saying about me. But anyway, you can get your own Green Devil Face shirt, stickers, MTD logo, of course, the lovely Dawnbringers ham or die shirts, using the same ham that's in the emotes right there. We've got the Dawnbringers logo and quite a few other shirts and stuff that are available for you to purchase. Looking down below Fig in the lower left corner, you will see the Jasper's Game Day and Initiative Coffee Company links for our partner, Jasper's Game Day. Simply type !Jasper in the chat and you'll get a link to where you can donate directly to this wonderful organization that is dedicated to raising awareness of and the elimination of suicide through tabletop gaming. Any funds that are raised go directly to help fund crisis centers around the country. At Initiative Coffee Company, you can type in !Coffee here in the chat, and you'll get a link to Metade roast coffee, a medium Brazilian and Peruvian roast coffee. For every 12-ounce bag of Metade roast coffee that you purchase, $3 will go towards Jasper's Game Day. Down below Talmud in the right corner, you will see the D&D Beyond logo. That is because D&D Beyond is powering the Mini Terrain Domain D&D streams. You can mouse over on Twitch on your computer and you will see all of the characters. You should. It's not working for me for some reason. Let me know if it's not working for anybody else. But yeah, you can click through on those characters and see who they are. So thank you to D&D Beyond for giving us insider access to bring that to you, the viewing audience, and also I get to use it to run the campaign. Domain dice. You look up above the head, my Lego head, and you will see that there are currently 90. I got to put Starns up there. There's actually 91 domain dice available up here. Those dice are your way to influence the game. That's right. You, through a simple $5 tip or a 500-bit cheer or resubscriptions, subscriptions, all that kind of stuff, will earn them domain dice, the players, that can be used to re-roll D20s and take the new roll, cause me, the DM, to re-roll and take a new roll. All kinds of wonderful, great stuff that is now in the chat because domain was typed. Thank you for that. The final announcement before we play our game is we want you to know, and we mean this. I know we say it every time and it sounds like I'm reading from a script, but I'm not. I mean this. You matter. We think you matter, and somebody else out there thinks you matter. And if you are struggling and you need help and you need somebody to talk to, you can type !help at any time in the chat, and some phone numbers and text numbers will pop up, as has already happened a couple of times. Or nope, that was something else. It's already happened though, there at the bottom. And the numbers that are there are the National Suicide Hotline in the United States, available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Trained professionals are waiting on the other end of that line to take your call at 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255. Or you can text 741-741. In Canada, you can text the word connect for English or parlay for French to 686-868. Or, available in English or French, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you can call toll-free 1-833-456-4566. Again, do not hesitate to use those numbers if you need them. They're there for you, and there's no shame in reaching out for help. All right, I think that wraps up all of the announcements that I wanted to make tonight. So, without further ado, let's play some Dungeons and Dragons. Nope, instantly fogged up. I thought I could get away with it. In our last session, after you all dealt with the aftermath of the finding the slavers and smugglers down below the haunted house on the hill, your momentary friend Drown had taken off in pursuit of the Sea Ghost, a ship in which its captain and crew, along with roughly half the slaves, escaped, headed out to sea. But you did end up freeing a number of the slaves that we are now referring to as refugees. They are no longer slaves. You recovered quite a bit of merchandise and supplies. And after taking a long rest and trying to figure out what to do with all of the refugees, and knowing that you had to get back to town to let the council know that the real slavers had been found and that they could let your friend Captain Stark free, it was decided, in part, some of the refugees brought it up, that they would stay at the house and they would clear it out, straighten things up, and basically take care of things so that you would have a essentially potentially a base of operations in this old house. And they are utilizing all of the foodstuffs and everything else that was there and are taking care of the bodies and hopefully doing something about the orphaned giant ferrets in the garden. And you all headed back to town. And you did take Sanabale, the slaver and smuggler running the ground operations here at the house, and you strung him up Star Wars style, like Han and Luke being transported by the Ewoks, and the two dwarves are carrying him slung in this way on their shoulders. So naturally he's been bouncing against the ground and hitting his head on rocks, and nobody seems to care. But as you approached the town, you noticed that there was a distinct lack of activity happening around the docks. And you caught a few people running out of their doors and heading towards the center of town, where you realized, or actually rather you stopped somebody and asked what was going on, and you learned that the captain and his crew, known by the townsfolk to be slavers, were brought to the town square and were to be hung. You rounded the corner in town where you discovered a massive crowd, and you saw Captain Stark Dervish. You saw the boatswain Arnold, the quartermaster Giselle, and the surgeon Matilda, all with ropes around their necks, standing on a log that was propped up on the edge of this gallows. And just as you start to make a plan to move forward and let them know that they don't have to proceed, the log was kicked out from underneath them, and your friends, the rope snapped taut, and your friends begin struggling against the ropes. And that is where we are picking up this session. Thorgarn and Talmud, you have Sanabale still across your shoulders on this stick. Cantriel, Griveth, and Fig, I believe you all were preparing to put something into motion. So what exactly are you all going to do?
Can I move where I can see all the ropes sort of lined up to each other?
You can, but it's going to take you a while because you need to get through the crowd, and the way you came around, they're basically facing towards you.
Okay. Then
it's doable, but it might take you. Essentially, the crowd is going to function like difficult terrain.
All right.
Unless you can get them to disperse.
Can I see what she's trying to do and like push them aside, like essentially shield push them aside?
You want to start pushing through the crowd? Go ahead and give me an intimidation check. I like it in the chat. People are talking about Jeremy's beard, and every time they mention beard, it brings up all of my links.
15.
All right, let me just see how this crowd is doing, because they're pretty riled up. Their blood is up. You're pushing a few people aside, but you're finding that you're having to push. Every time you get somebody out of the way, they're starting to swell back in right behind you. It's not having the effect you want just by pushing them. What are you doing at this moment, Fig?
Fig had readied a magic missile from his wand and was sending that out in order to cut the ropes to give Cantriel and Griveth more time to get up there.
So what I will need you to do, because magic missile specifically targets creatures, not objects. However, I will allow you to make a ranged spell attack against the rope. So normally you wouldn't roll for an attack with magic missile, but I will allow you to make that range spell because you're basically, it's almost like you're aiming at the people that are hanging, but you're trying to use your magic to redirect those missiles to the ropes.
Yep, that makes sense. Okay. Did you want it for each of them?
No, because the way the spell works is you're sending out the darts in one shot, and then you're controlling them in that way.
Okay. You want me to add my?
Yep, add your spellcasting modifier to your D20 roll.
Okay, that's 22 then.
All right, I had set the DC for that at 20. So,
Dang.
Fig pulls out the wand and sort of looking pretty impressive. This clockwork wizard standing there with this oilskin coat with this iridescent green trim, this new wonderful hat atop his head, eyes glowing with the blue energy. As you bring your arm up, it's almost like the camera just follows along your wand, and the 4 bolts just, and all of these bolts are twisting and turning around the crowd. And you see as they zoom right towards the party up on the captain and the others hanging from the gallows. And you actually see Captain Dervish for a moment. His eyes grow wide or wider as he sees this bolt of energy coming towards him. And all of these bolts, just as they get to the gallows, just veer up at a slight angle and cut right through the ropes. All 4 of them crash to the ground around. Immediately, the crowd begins yelling and wanting to know what's happened. The council members that are visible, you saw that Eleander Firebrand was up near the gallows, and he had looked at you almost with a "there's nothing I can do" look when you had first rounded the bend. And you notice that amongst all of the shouts, you can see some of those Saltmarsh regulars with their leather armor emblazoned with the Saltmarsh reed are starting to come out from where they were keeping the crowd at bay, and they're looking around. They're holding their spears, looking, and a couple are pointing over in your direction, Fig. What are the rest of you doing?
Still trying to push forward to get towards the stage.
Cantriel, give me a insight check.
Insight. Okay.
I would imagine the Thorgarn and Talmud are doing the same thing.
13.
What are you doing with Sambalay?
Bringing them with.
Just trying to move through the crowd?
Just pushing our way through.
All right. Give me since you're both working together, go ahead, one of you make a intimidation roll at advantage.
Do you want to, or you want me to, Jeremy?
I only have a +1 in Intimidate, so I don't.
That's where I'm at as well.
All right.
You want to roll, or you want me to roll?
I'll roll.
Oh, I gotta give you guys your domain dice.
Oh, hey, that's not bad. With advantage, that's going to be a 19.
All right. And Griveth, why don't you go ahead and also make one at advantage as Cantriel is pressing in behind you at the same time.
Okay, so Griveth sees that the dwarves are pressing forward with Cantriel, and
Cantriel's with you.
Oh, okay. Well, Griveth is a bit worried about Fig. Is Fig's alone, right?
At this point, yes, Fig's still standing at the back of the crowd.
And the guards are kind of pointing at her, so he's like, uh-oh, this may not be good. So I'm actually going to work my way in the opposite direction back towards Fig.
All right, so you start moving backwards.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Cantriel, you're still struggling, especially now that Griveth, as he turns, he sort of pushes some of the crowd in. They're starting to block your way. And then you notice to your other side that a path is sort of opening up as the dwarves are pushing through, carrying Zambole forward. So you can slip into the wake of where they're moving, and begin to move forward.
Absolutely.
Damn, pardon me. Big. You can see now that there are a number of individuals that are... You see the spears moving through the top of the crowd. And for the moment, in addition, just momentarily, a banner on all of their spears appears that says, "Praise the patron saint of domain dice." Thank you, Chameleon Fam, for dropping in with a huge domain dice drop. Chameleon Fam does not like to see the Dawnbringers down below 100 domain dice, and is making sure that is not the case, as you are now at not 92... but 102 domain dice. Thank you, Chameleon Fam. Those banners, you don't know what they are. They disappear. But the spears are still coming towards you, as half a dozen guards are moving through the crowd in your direction, Fig. Are you doing anything? Or are you standing your ground?
Fig!
Griveth is trying to move towards you.
I think Fig is taking a step or two back, because Fig has never had to deal with this kind of aggression, other than from the gnomes, and that did not go so well. So he is quite afraid and is just taking some steps back.
Dwarves, make me another intimidation check at advantage.
My turn?
Yep.
Am I with them yet? Or am I getting close?
Yeah, you're pretty much in their wake now.
Okay.
It's a 15, Jake.
The rest of the crowd begins to disperse. It's getting a lot thinner, and it's now easier to move through the crowd. Cantriel, what are you trying to do?
I want to scream at them to move their arses.
All right, make a intimidation check at advantage.
At advantage. All right. This I'm liking very much. Let me find another d20.
At arse vantage.
At arse vantage? Well, let's see. They both rolled 17. 17 plus a 6. 23.
All of a sudden, as you're screaming out, the rest of the people are just clearing a path sort of just wide enough for you, that opens up towards the front. And you are able to get through the crowd ahead of the others.
Perfect. I'm getting to that stage.
As you move towards the stage, Cantriel, about a half a dozen guards form a line in front of the stage, and they brace their spears, holding them forward towards you.
I have a question. Could I sacrifice one of my spell slots to use a Misty Step?
Oh, thank God you said spell slot. I then wondered what you were sacrificing. Can I sacrifice a villager?
I'd like to sacrifice one of the dwarfs. No, I'm kidding.
It's a real Sophie's choice, deciding which one.
It totally is. Totally.
Cantriel's choice. Next week on a very special Dawnbringers.
That's going to get interesting.
I'm sorry. I was joking and I forgot what you wanted to sacrifice.
Since I have the trait that I can do Misty Step once a day type of situation between rests, can I sacrifice one of my spell slots to do it again? Because I've already used it.
How is it? That's a feature that you have.
Yeah.
As an Eladrin?
Mm-hmm.
that's a little outside of the capabilities of that.
You never know.
It's
unless
worth a
you
try.
ask.
It was worth a try, but
Can she use a spell slot and domain dice?
Oh, like kind of treat it like a hit point. Yeah, like the hit points for the dice.
that's interesting.
Like the short rest thing, you know? Ow, cat. Sorry.
Tamiko's calling me out on the yes, but so and Joey P's dropping a mini terrain domain logo, which I'm going to take that to mean the patron saint endorses this. So for the lack of a rule, we'll say that the same 3 domain dice that would normally be used for spending hit dice will allow you to reuse that feature and a spell slot.
Okay. Okay.
As you
Let's do it.
tap into a still as yet unknown entity to gain this benefit, you feel your reserves of arcane energy momentarily replenish for that ability.
Okay. So as I'm running towards them, I will stop dead in my tracks and waggle my fingers at them. Hello, boys. And then start fading into my mist. Goodbye, boys. And go right up onto the stage right next to who's ever most in charge.
Well, it appeared that there was just a
Is anyone
a
left?
rather large guard that was on the stage that was the one that pushed the block out from under their feet. The captain and the rest of the crew, they are still gasping. They're kind of in a heap on the ground because their hands were bound, so they're really struggling. Hands bound. You see Captain Dervish just... you see Eleander Firebrand standing there at near the stage, and you actually can hear now his voice as he's calling out, "Don't harm them! Let them through! Let them through!" And in counterpoint to that, somebody is hollering out, "Seize them! Seize them!" And you recognize this individual. He's standing off to the side of the stage near Firebrand, and you recognize him as the human Anders Solmore, who actually came to the jailhouse. He's actually the one that told you
Right.
where you might be able to find the slavers, that there was rumors that they'd been operating out of this old haunted house. And he appears to be the one sort of in charge of this debacle.
Okay. So can Verdi fly over to him and use his where did it go? He has suggestion. Yeah, could Verdi fly over to him and use his suggestion and just kind of suggest just to shut the hell up?
Yeah, you can command Verde to do that.
Check what suggestion. Ta-da.
So I always forget. That's a green older, correct?
Yes.
Verde suggestion.
They have to do a wisdom saving throw.
A wisdom saving throw.
Yeah.
All right, that's going to be... He does not succeed.
Ooh. All right. So then Verity will kind of flap in front of him and sort of do this hypnotic little weaving around. And in his mind, he'll hear Verity going, "Keep your mouth shut until further notice."
And you see Anders as he starts to bat away at this fairy dragon, and then just sort of, and he stops and just kind of looks, and Eleander Firebrand kind of looks over at him and then looks at you lot, and he begins barking orders out at the guards, and the ones nearest the stage, he's calling some of them out by name, and you hear him bellowing out, "Get them up on their feet!" And you see them looking confused for a moment, and then they start to help them up. Meanwhile, the 6 guards are beyond that initial earshot and are moving through the crowd, closing in, and just as they break through the crowd and begin lowering their spears towards Fig. Griveth, you come breaking through the crowd a few feet away.
All right, so I see the peril that Fig is in, so I center myself and I call on Eldath. I call on Eldath to protect my friend, save her from harm, and I cast Sanctuary on Fig.
Sanctuary, which does...
They have to roll a wisdom saving throw to attack her or molest her or do anything.
You ward a creature within range against attack until the spell ends. Any creature who targets a warded creature with an attack or harmful spell must make a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, they choose a new target or lose their attack. Okay. They all move in, and you see them as you cast this spell sort of just... They don't stop suddenly, but they stop as if something kind of immediately slowed them down. And they move into a bit of a little, like, sort of fan out a little bit. And one of them sort of nervously calls out, looking at you, Fig. Put the wand down. Don't move. Don't cast any more spells.
In response, Fig, he does put his wand away, but as he's reaching up his sleeve, he takes, and you see there's like a handful of these gears that he takes, and he throws them at the guards, and these gears fly out and they land on the eyes of these guards, and they begin to turn inches, like millimeters away from their eyes, and these guards see this, like, these shapes of the gears and the holes just like turning and turning and turning. It's creating this weird illusion almost, and he's gonna cast sleep on them.
Okay.
At 4th level.
All right, so I need to see what their hit points are. There are 6 guards. Roll your sleep hit point pool.
So that's 5 at 1st level, so that's 11d8 at 4th level. Is that right?
Let's see. At 4th level you're casting it?
Yeah.
So that would be... Yeah, because normally it's... Where'd it go? It's 5d8. And you're casting it 3 additional levels. So yep, 11d8.
Perfect. Okay. So then that is going to be 59 points.
As these gears are swirling around in front of them, you see as one by one a guard falls, and then another drops. Another drops. And another, until all that's left is one guard standing there. And he sort of wavers, but he doesn't quite fall asleep. And he brandishes his spear at you threateningly as he's trying to move around. And I imagine once the spell's cast and the effect takes place, these gears either return to you or vanish, fall away as he's kind of looking past. And he looks back around like he's looking for help. He doesn't move any closer. And he's just standing there, shaking visibly. Thorgarn and Talmud, what are you doing?
How close to the stage have we gotten?
You've managed to break through the
Firebrand.
crowd, and you are now up near, you're within 10, 15 feet of the stage, and where Eleander Firebrand stands back there. And you
So
can see
I
now
would-
there's a couple other council members that seem to be nearby.
So I would proclaim loudly, enough that, I'm not just telling Firebrand, but, saying it so that anyone else that would be in earshot, would hear is, the charade needs to end. We have brought the real slaver here.
You see as many of the crowd near you begins murmuring, and moments later, Griveth and Fig, you can hear at the back of the crowd people saying, "They say they brought the slavers. I thought that's who they were hanging. No, there's some dwarves got some guy tied up." And Cantriel, you see, who exactly were you trying to get to, Cantriel? What were you doing after Verde?
Start slicing not hands, but start slicing the rope between their hands. Sorry. Let's clarify what we're doing here.
You're helping the crew.
Yeah, so basically I'd start with the captain and free his hands first and then move on to the others.
As you free him, he quickly, almost as if it's a snake, grabs at the noose that is now broken around his neck and gets it off from around his throat. And then he looks at you, Cantriel. You certainly do like to make a dramatic entrance, don't you?
Well, I like to be memorable.
I won't soon be forgetting you. And he is already at the side of, as you're helping the others, he's helping one of the other crew as they start cutting them free. But he's also looking around. He's looking, just surveying the scene and trying to see what the heck is going on. And that's when Eleander Firebrand, you hear his voice above everyone else's. "Everybody needs to silence! I don't like yelling! Don't make me yell anymore!" And it takes a minute for things to start to die down. And he looks over at you, Cantriel, and he looks at the dwarves and he says, "Don't any of you go anywhere. Stay right where you are till I can get to the bottom of this." And he's kind of looking over the crowd. "Where are those damn fool guards? Bring them forward!" The one guard, quaking, is looking at his fallen companions and just looks at you, Fig, and then looks over at you, Griveth, and he just sets his spear so it's upright and steps aside and just says, and you see the crowd is already parting now, forming a path all the way to the front. Do Fig and Griveth go through the crowd?
I think as Fig is passing by the guard, "Don't worry, they're just sleeping. If you give them a little pinch, they'll wake up quicker."
He almost flinches as you speak to him. You're speaking in your usual calm demeanor, but you might as well have yelled at him for the way he flinches. And he's got that look of somebody who's afraid a slap, a punch, a magic spell is going to hit him at any moment. Until he eventually opens his eyes and sees that you guys are gone. You've already moved forward through the crowd. As you get up to the front, and all of you are now sort of together up in there, Eleander Firebrand comes down. All right. Well, I'm not going to lie. I didn't like the way things were going down here today, and I tried to stop it, and I was powerless to do so. So there's that part of me that's glad that y'all showed up and did what you did.
Again.
But then there's also that part of me that is the keeper of the law here in town, and you just interfered with the council-sanctioned execution in plain
Yes.
view of the council and literally hundreds of witnesses.
Yes, but one of the council members was already interfering.
That council member is the one who called for this execution.
And they're corrupt.
Let your people know the truth. And it won't matter what the council wanted. They know that this was a farce in the first place.
You want to put us in jail, put us in jail. But
I don't want to put you in jail, dwarf.
you can be.
I'm on your side.
I know, sir, but I do respect the law, and we saved these 4 people from an unjust murder. Even if the council had decided that they were to be executed, it would still be murder.
Which would you rather, the death of 4 innocent people or having to explain things a little bit more in detail?
Again,
One can be fixed, the other 4 can't.
We have the
again,
true villains. Let us sort this out, and then you can have your blood.
He said we're going to give him the story. So
I am on your side. You do not need to convince me. I don't know what you did to Anders over here.
Oh, don't worry, Verity, you just told him to shut up.
He actually chuckles for a moment. Wish I had that power. All right, look. And about this moment, a very sturdy looking woman, weather-checked face, her long sort of graying hair is tied back into a thick plait down her and actually draped over her shoulder. She wears trousers and heavy boots. She's got her sleeves rolled up, and you can see tattoos peeking out from under her sleeves, or rather all down her, up and down her forearms. A few scars there as she physically pushes past Eleander Firebrand, who he's a big man, and she effortlessly pushes him aside. What in the 9 hells is going on here? Eleander, are these those dang fools you told me about? Yes, this is the Dawnbringers. Dawnbringers, this is the head of the council, Edda Owland. Look, I hope you aren't expecting some sort of cordial welcome. You have come in the middle of council business and are interfering in front of the entire town, making us look like fools, and you better get to explaining.
Would you
And
rather look
since-
more the fool for killing
I
4
don't
innocent
believe I
people?
was done talking, lady.
Oh, I don't care, honey, because guess what? I just saved your ass from murder. So shut up your mouth, and you better listen to what we have to share with you. Because quite frankly, I'm tired of this town already. It's been nothing but having to justify ourselves one after the next and saving our arses.
Make me an intimidation check.
Okay. Oh, sweet. All right, that's going to be mathing 21.
As your short fuse burns away, she doesn't interrupt you a second time. She just looks over at Eleander, and he gives her this look like, I told you.
She's a human woman, right?
Yes.
Oh, then I'm like, honey, I may look like I'm maybe a quarter of your age, but I've got a good few centuries almost on you. So respect your elders, understand?
Just as I was starting to think that maybe I liked you, you keep running your mouth and you're going to change my opinion again. Now, before you go shouting me down again, I'm going to let you have your say in a more civilized manner. But know this, it is not age that grants one wisdom, it is experience. And I don't care how many centuries old you are, young lady. I can assure you I have much more experience in this world than you do. Now, if you and your companions, I can only assume you're the leader of this ragtag band?
No, I'm just the one with a mouth.
Ma'am, look, we came into town. We spoke to, Oleander Firebrand, Anders over there, and we can tell you that these fine people here, and I point over towards the ones in the gallows, are not slavers. Anders sent us off to the house on the up the way there to look for the real slavers. I kind of kicked the body that's kind of lying between Talmud and myself. This one here is one of the real slavers. We cleaned up the problem. We can point you towards the ship that they've been using. I can give you the names of their crew. But I can guarantee you that these four here were being hung for no reason as a show that you think you have everything under control.
She turns to Eleander. When you was talking them up, you did not tell me how much they like to speak. Oh, let me guess. You want to say a piece at me now, too?
No, I'm the strong silent type.
Listen. There's a lot more going on here than any of you can possibly imagine. And right now, I would just as soon not deal with everything that's going on in front of the entire town. Eleander, take them upstairs. She doesn't specify any further location than that, but he just gives a nod, and she immediately steps forward and begins addressing the crowd. Citizens of Saltmarsh, you came here to see a hanging, but it appears you will be disappointed today, and before you go whining about the way the council is running your town, know that nothing happens in this town without us having a hand in it. We have this situation in control, and when a resolution has been reached, we will notify you. Until then, go back home and go back to work. Those fish are not going to catch themselves. There's a little bit of murmuring of dissent, but you notice that people almost immediately begin moving about, and it's only moments before the crowd has been dispersed. I just realized I don't have anything higher than 105 on my... I thought I had set that up so that we had a higher number. So we are back in the same boat we were before, and I think this is why he just donated again. You guys now have... You actually have 106 domain dice. He just wanted to see me have to start tracking it on paper. But thank you, Joey P. Eleander, as she, Edda Owlin is dealing with the crowd, Eleander says to all of you, and he says to the guards, we're going to be taking him upstairs. Listen, just come with me. I'm not even going to imagine trying to tell you to keep your mouth shut. This town needs to hear what you have to say. Figure out who this guy is. Yeah, bring them too. We'll get somebody in here to tend to them. But until this situation's cleared up, you are still under arrest, he says to the captain and the crew. As he begins leading you all towards a building just a little ways down the street. It's a 3-story structure that has some sort of a shop in it.
Does the captain and crew stay with us?
Yeah, they're coming with you. You're all going together. And you're led through this shop that appears to be just to sell a lot of supply. It's like a general supply store, but it has obviously things geared more towards the fisher folk. You're led through the back and then up a set of stairs up into a large chamber that seems to be serving as a council chamber. On your way up, heading up the stairs, Eleander says to you all, you need to know Ada is one of the traditionalists. She is also a member of the leader of the council. She's the most senior here. It doesn't mean she has any more of a vote, but she did vote in favor of moving forward with the execution. You just need to know that as we move in. You're all led into this room where there are a couple of long tables, and then there is, along one wall, there's about a dozen or so chairs that give the sense that maybe a public forum might be held here, but not a lot of people come, or they don't let a lot of people here. But it's indicated that you all should feel free to take a seat. Eleander says to you, Thorgarn and Talmud, as effective as it appears to be, the transportation of this prisoner, maybe we could get him off this pole and the guards will keep an eye on him.
Are they guards that you trust that aren't in someone's pocket?
They're my guards. I
Make sure
trust
keep
them.
his hands tied up and his mouth gagged, though.
Yes. He is a spellcaster.
All right. Well, that's good to know. All right. And then you hear some footsteps on the stairs.
We did make sure that we took any components or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you cleared his pockets. Somebody has his Cantriel actually has his pipe of remembrance.
Yeah, I do. It's cool.
You hear footsteps. And a moment later, a human male dressed in very fine clothes, much finer than even anybody you've seen in Saltmarsh. He's got a neatly trimmed beard. His mustache comes out and curls wildly, streaks of gray in it. He has a monocle, and he walks with a walking stick. And as he comes into the room, he kind of looks, he's literally looking down his nose at you all. As he looks around the room. Well, it's certainly turning out to be quite the interesting day, eh, Firebrand? Prime water is all Firebrand says. A moment later, I've been saying Firebrand. It's actually Fireborn. I don't know why I've been saying Firebrand. A moment later, what's his name? Anders makes his way up, and he is very quiet. He's not saying anything. He is in the or rather in his presence is a very tall, thin man with very neatly short cropped silver hair. He has very tan skin. And you can hear him as he's talking to Anders as he says, Mr. Soma, please tell me what happened. Can't help you if you don't tell me. But I'll see you to the council seat then, sir. He seems to be some sort of attendant. And then you hear the heavy footsteps, and then Ada Owland comes into the room. The guards have the captain and the crew secured off to the side. Two of the guards are specifically watching Sambalay. Ada moves to her seat at the head of the council table. All right, everybody sit down. We're going to get to the bottom, and we're going to figure out just what in the nine hells is going on here. Now, before you start shouting me down again, I want to know from you, who exactly are you? And because I know if I just get the sense if you don't get to talk right away, you're gonna have to fight that urge to yell at me again. So you, and she indicates you, Cantriel. Who are you?
Would you like individual names or the name in general used for our group?
I would like to know who you are, young lady.
I am Cantriel Cavatina.
You, dwarf. Talmud, she's looking at you.
My name is Talmud of the clan Gadaun.
And you, other dwarf.
Thorgarn Spirit Caller, kin to Talmud and the dwarves that are trapped out on that boat.
Yeah. All dwarves seem to be cousins to one another. You, sir. Griveth.
I am Griveth Langsmore, a paladin of Eldath.
A paladin, you say? All right,
Yes.
all right. And is this some sort of mechanical servant to you?
He is no servant. He is a companion. He is a friend.
Does
I am figure 2 Prometheus.
Talmud is looking weird at Griveth right now.
interesting. You act of your own accord, figure 2, Prometheus.
I do.
You are not in service to these others?
I am not. They are my friends.
Who is your maker?
Why is that important? I see that this is not conducive conversation to what is at hand at the moment.
Well, interesting. All right. I'll let that one go for now. She just kind of gives you a sidelong glance. All right. she picks up a wooden gavel and she slams it on the table. For the second time today, the council is in session.
Jake, I'm gonna try and like lean back and whoever is speaking, I want to just try and take it in and basically trying to see if I can see whether there's any hidden motives behind anything that they're doing and that they're saying, whether anyone seems nervous at the fact that these crewmen didn't get hung, any of that kind of stuff. I'm just trying to keep a watchful eye, and I'm trying not to say a word.
All right. Earlier today, the council was brought together at the behest of Anders Salmar, who had been insisting for the past couple of days that we just proceed with eliminating the known slavers. She indicates Captain Dervish and crew. We've had every indication since their arrival here in town that they are, case in point being the ship full of disease-ridden dwarves, bringing slaves blatantly into our town and our region. The good citizens of Saltmarsh took it upon themselves to prevent this disease-ridden ship from making its way into port, and we believe this is how it was so easy for us to capture this slaver captain. And yet, here you are, interrupting our legal, sanctioned execution, claiming that you have... I'm sorry, do you have something to say, Dwarf? This is a council, and I have the floor.
I'm not from here.
Ignorance of the law does not preclude you, and I am getting tired of your mouth opening. Also, young woman.
Just a cough.
You wanted to know why he was talking. He has allergies. Clarifying the situation so you may continue.
Captain
with your
Fireborn
explanation.
here has vouched for you so-called Dawnbringers. And with every time you open your mouths, you are not only adjusting my opinion of you, you are adjusting my opinion of Captain Fireborn. Now, if I may be allowed to proceed in my council chambers, which one of you would like to tell me who this individual is bound and gagged in my council chambers, and why you have brought him here today? Oh, of course, now none of you want to talk, now that I give you the floor.
Well, I was waiting for you to be sure that you're finished. Give that 2-second pause, make sure there wasn't that dramatic pause for effect on your end.
She picks up the gavel, and for a second, Cantriel, she holds
Throw that
it
at my head, and you won't get your answer.
For a second, she holds it like she wants to do just that. She wants to throw it at you. And then she takes it. She stands up. She hands it to Fireborn. She walks around the table. And she sits on the edge of the table. Kind of one leg cocked up on the table, the other down. She crosses her arms. Let's dispense with the formalities of the usual council meeting. I think my other council members can agree. Primewater just sort of gives a snort. Sure. Whatever you say. She looks over to Anders, who, of course, says nothing. You all would notice, particularly Thorgarn, I think you would notice this with having established a keen eye on what's going on, that there is an a seat that is empty that seems to have been left empty. Somebody that should be there is not there. Look, it's no secret that Anders, for the life of me, I don't know why he isn't rivaling your mouth, Cantriel.
Oh,
Because he usually is, but he's been pushing hard for the last couple of days to get us to deal with the slaver situation, and we don't take kindly to slavery in this part of the world. I don't know where you come from, but around here, it's not something we take kindly to.
neither
So-
do I.
So, well, that's good to hear. So, we took it seriously when there were allegations and everything seemed to point to the slaving operation taking place. I was unaware that Mr. Saltmarsh had already sent you off on what perhaps he thought was some sort of wild goose chase, and yet you're claiming you've come back with somebody who is the real slaver. Would you
Oh,
care to
and-
explain that?
Oh, quite happily. In fact, I'd be concerned about the fact that we were sent on a wild goose chase and he kept running his mouth to try and get things to proceed forward. I'm a little suspicious of his connections. Let's just put it that way. But we made our way over to this haunted house, which, by the way, not haunted at all, just charmed to make it seem that way. Got in there, made our way through the basement, got into this tucked under cavern where we found a good number of slaves being held by that one over there, who, by the way, don't recommend getting him unbound or anything like that until we're sure we can control his penchants for magic. Not only was there the slaves, there was also a ship full of more slaves that actually made their way out back into the sea. We saved who we were able to. We've made sure that they have been fed, that they have gotten their rest, that they have gotten medical attention. Some have even come with us to vouch for this. The greater concern is that there's another ship out there now floating away with more. If you're as concerned as you are, and I hope you are,
Point of order: is Zelamar still with us?
Actually, thank you for that. I'm looking through my notes here. I was trying to find their names. It was Zelamar and
Zelamar, the refugee that will
Velamar, and what was the other one?
the lady,
No, Zelamar is the only one that came with us.
she stayed,
every-
like, didn't the lady
Everyone
stay at
else
the
stayed
house?
back.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right. Indeed. Yeah, and he would be very quietly just in the corner, doing a very good job, probably from however long he's been enslaved, of trying to remain invisible. But Ada Olin just looks at you and says, "So, if I'm hearing you correctly, you followed Anders Salmar's lead. You discovered a slaving operation taking place in the basement. You rescued a number of slaves who are not currently here, and the rest of the slaves and the slavers all got away, except for this one individual who does not look like he could control more than one or two people. And
Well,
you
we
have
did
to
kill his
understand
minions
this
off.
does not play very well into what you are attempting to tell us actually happened.
Would it help if there were bodies of his minions that we took care of? That was his brute strength.
We have.
So
we
you
have
killed
13
his cohorts, okay? And
We
there's
have
bodies
13
somewhere.
We have 13 rescued slaves recuperating from their time as slaves. We have this one here who was in charge of the house, but one by the name of Sonabale. I can give you the names of the crew of the ship, the name of the ship that has been doing the transportation, and how they got in and out of the area. If that's enough evidence.
What was the name of this ship, Dwarf?
The Sea Ghost, captained by Snake Eyes and his crew Bloody Bjorn, Foul Frothoff, and Ponkita.
You see, as you name the ship and you begin naming off the members of the crew of this ship, her arms slowly come uncrossed from in front of her, and she puts both of her hands on the edge of the table, and you can see that her knuckles are growing white as she's squeezing the side of this table. You hear the heavy thunk of her boot from the leg that was cocked up on the table hit the floor, and she pushes off of the table. You're telling me that you encountered the Sea Ghost and all of her crew, and you're telling me that those are the names of the crew of that vessel?
We did not get to fight them as they fled, but yes.
I know you didn't get to fight them, because I guarantee you that if you went up against Captain Sigurd, who goes by the name Snake Eyes, thinking it makes him more menacing, you'd have a lot more wounds to bear, and I'd be surprised if all 5 of you had returned. I know the Sea Ghost. I know Captain Sigurd. I know Bloody Bjorn and Frithoff and Pokita. I know that the size of the crew they travel with. I know that they travel with lizard folk.
Oh yeah, we took care of a few of those.
Do you know Sonobale?
I don't know Son of Belay.
Well, that's the son of a bitch over there.
That's convenient.
Interesting.
Well, from the
Let's
information-
just say your stock just went up a whole heck of a lot more than it was when you walked in through these doors.
Well, I think it's because we're now
Information-
speaking the same language, quite frankly.
From the information we gathered, Captain Sigurd or Snake Eyes, whatever you want to call that arsehole, he's got some kind of deal with the lizard folk. He's been trading back and forth.
Weapons. Lots of weapons.
Snake.
And if you want further proof, I'll kind of like lean my head in the direction Zelamar, if you would be so kind as to share any more of your story with the foul captain or the evil mage here. This is Zelamar, who was a slave who we rescued.
Just remember, you're free to make this decision for yourself.
It might help if you show them your wrists, Zalamar.
She comes walking across the floor. This time in slower, measured steps. With each step, as she's looking at Zelmar, you see that her posture is changing just a little bit. Her shoulders seem to round out a little bit. Her eyes soften a little. Is this true? As she approaches Zelmar. Captain Sigurd, his crew, they have you captured. He gives a nervous nod. He can't bring himself to meet her gaze. It's true. She reaches down towards his hands, and he sort of flinches. She says, I'm not going to hurt you. May I? And he doesn't resist as she takes his hands in hers. His hands seem so small and frail. Her hands, you can see the calluses. These are hands that are used to working. She traces her hands across the wrists that are scarred and worn from who knows how long of wearing manacles. She leans in close, looking at his face. We're going to take care of you. We're going to take care of your people. She takes a step back. She turns.
Can
She
I
says-
can I insight that?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a 12. Only a 12.
She seems sincere. She seems genuinely sincere. Listen, you got to understand that I'm looking out for the well-being of this entire town and this entire region. Though we don't all agree and we all don't like it, the king has imposed his will upon the Saltmarsh, and we still have to do our part to maintain the peace and keep the law. We have to let a few things go. We've known for a while that there were smugglers working in the area. And to be perfectly honest, when there's a few goods getting smuggled in and out here, a little bit of contraband, it's all part of the business. It's all part of the game. But people are never a part of the game. There's one thing that I cannot abide by, and I get the sense that we can all agree on that. So
Here.
the weight of this responsibility weighs heavily upon my shoulders, and my shoulders can bear that weight. And that is why we made the decisions we made. Now, you understand we're going to have to corroborate your stories. I would like to send... You appear to have a trust with Ileander Fireborn, am I correct?
Aye.
Then if it is agreeable to you, I will send Fireborn and some of his men back up to the house to check on the situation. To check on the well-being, not necessarily that we are completely in doubt, because I see from this poor soul here the truth in your story.
If it's at all possible, if you've got horse and wagon, not all of them are really fit for travel. So if there's a way to bring in, something so that they could be able to ride the miles back to town.
You need not worry about it, Dwarf. Fireborn, go up to the temple, check in with Brother Mateus or any of the other friars, see if they can help out. Send a healer up there. Do what you got to do.
Take Verdi with you. That way they know that you've come from us.
Fair enough. Who's Verde?
This little fellow. And she's pointing to the dragon right over her shoulder.
She turns to Zelmar. Would you also want to return with them?
Zelamar, if you could go with Verdi, that way I know he's being taken care of properly. Would you mind?
Yes, ma'am. And Fireborn quickly begins to bring up. He leaves the soldiers that are up here, but he grabs, or not really grabs, but he motions to Zelmar to come with him, and Verde would fly along, and they begin to head down the stairs.
Verde would actually sit on Zelamar's shoulders and actually wrap his tail sort of around him protectively.
All right. And I don't know the exact range, but I feel like once they get outside, that Verde's concentration on the suggestion spell wears off.
It will. Yep.
And Ada Owlin says, well, we still got to figure out the disposition of the San Belay. We'll get the guards, we'll take him up to the jail, and she walks over to Captain Dervish and the rest of the crew and says, I'm going to release you to the custody of the Dawnbringers. Do not leave town.
So can I ask another question? Anders had said that he was going to get someone to check on the well-being of the dwarves, and if we left town under his suggestion to go check out this mansion, it is complete and utter truth that those dwarves on that ship are kin to me and Talmud here, and if they've been on the boat for as long as all of this, I'm worried that there's enough food stores, what kind of issues that there might be with the town's blockade. I'm honestly worried for them.
The
They
thing you
weren't
got to
sick
know.
whenever we got here.
What was that?
They weren't sick whenever we got here. You've been fed more than one lie.
Look, just think about it this way. Do you want to be known like that captain in that ship, treating people so poorly because of your preconceptions?
Here's the thing. Anders Solmar here. This boy is the kind you got to understand. He comes from a strong merchant family. His mother Petra sat on the council. She was a good friend of mine, and she was a shrewd businesswoman. She knew her fleets. Anders Solmar, while his heart is in the right place, is the kind of person that will send his ships out and forget to load them up with goods. And then for the first time in a long time, you hear Anders' voice as he says, "It was literally one time. Only the one time that happened. Look, I told you true, did I not? I told you where you could find the rumors of the slavers.
And the moment we stepped out of town, you start pushing for the council to hang my friends.
Up until that point, your friends were suspected of being slavers. How was I to know? How were any of us to know?
You led us to believe that you were going to look after our friends while we looked into the problems in your town. You assured me that you were going to send somebody to look after my kin. Did you do so? Did you do so?
So the thing about that is
it is a yes or no question.
Course.
And again, Edda Owland, she's sort of leaned against the table, has her arms crossed, and she's looking at all of you as you're giving Anders the third degree. I imagine there's this moment where you're kind of looking at her, Cantriel, and she looks at you, and she just gives you that sort of nod of, go ahead, lay into him.
I am staring him straight in the eyes, and I'm waiting for an answer.
Cantriel's going to get up and walk over to him very slowly and deliberately, and her eyes are going to start getting a slight glow to him, just fighting her tendencies of nature. And she's going to be standing behind Thorgarn, arms crossed. You have a slight problem here, darling boy. For right now, it's looking a wee bit like when the cats are away, the mice is going to play. Well, listen, little mouse, you weren't playing with cats. You were playing with predator felines. So you better start coming clean.
There's nothing.
You better start, not yet. And you better start telling the truth, or I'm going to sharpen my claws.
He looks to Ada for help, and she just looks at him like, I'm not getting involved in this. She's basically leaving him at your mercy. Okay, look.
Nope, that's not a word I asked you to say. Yes or no?
He's going to be the one questioning you.
I'm
by the
going
way.
to answer your questions. Just let
and
me
you've
answer.
said about 17 words too many. I stand up and I get in. I can't get to his face because I imagine I'm way too short, but I am going to get as close as I possibly can.
He backs into the tall, thin man that's standing there, who's standing right next to him, and just sort of.
I keep moving.
No.
So your word is worth nothing. How can you lead men when you cannot fulfill a promise?
I told you that I would try to find somebody that was willing.
No. You laid down a plan of who you would talk to and how quickly you would get someone out there to check on the well-being of people who you believed, or at least you led us to believe, were being held against their will for some farce of a claim.
Cantriel's going to put her hand on Thorgarn's shoulder, and she's giving him some bardic inspiration as he questions him.
So you tell me right here and now how you want it. And I crack my knuckles.
You're just lucky we got here before the hanging took place.
How you want it?
What?
How do you want it?
I don't understand.
I'll punch him straight in the groin. Boom!
All right.
Those are the bells of diplomacy.
You sock him in the nuts.
AC 18.
Yeah, definitely. He goes. He
4
goes.
points of damage.
He goes down to his knees, and he is doing the best to not throw up. He's clutching himself. And at this point, Ada steps in. All right. Look. It's very clear that Anders was playing two sides here.
So it has now been several days, and I let the ire, bleed out of my voice. It has now been several days, Madam, Councilwoman, since a council member of your town assured the Dawnbringers that someone would look after the well-being of my kin. Please, in all fairness, what can be done to make sure that there are not sick and dying dwarves on there that are being now held against their will by members of your town, as close to slavery as one might claim that you so choose to fight? We have been hired to come here for the betterment of your town. There are workers who are seeking work and are being forced to not do as they have been hired to do, with no way of knowing, because no one will allow them to be checked upon, to know whether they have food, to know whether they have gotten sick, because that they have not been able to get off the boat.
You hear for the first time Captain Dervish speaks up. Council woman Owland, was it? You have so graciously released us into the custody of the Dawnbringers. Would you permit us to go with them to the ship and to check on the well-being and make sure that the dwarves and the rest of the crew are okay? And if we can show that, then allow the Evangeline to dock and the dwarves and your own council member, Manistrad Copperlocks, to come ashore. Thorgarn, make a persuasion check with advantage, and I believe you also have bardic inspiration as well.
Yes. What is your current die, the Cantriel?
D8.
D8. Well, thank you very much for that, because that gave me an extra 7. Persuasion. So that is 21.
Right? I'm still forming my opinions about you, Dawnbringers. But given what I have seen in the last hour, you seem to be living up to the name that has preceded you, at least as uttered by Captain Fireborn's lips. I'm going to allow you, Dawnbringers, to take Captain Dervish and the others. You'll take one of our sloops and you'll head out to the ship accompanied by some of the Saltmarsh regulars. You'll verify the well-being of the crew and the dwarves aboard. If it is determined that it is safe to do so, we'll bring Manistrad back. Captain Dervish will return to shore on the sloop with you. But the crew, if it is deemed safe to do so, will be allowed to bring the Evangeline into dock. Is this acceptable to you? She's addressing you directly, Thorgarn.
That's fine for me. Honestly, I just want to look after the well-being of my kin. It's, I don't think that they've been treated their due.
All right. Well, this has truly been one of the more interesting days that's passed in Saltmarsh in quite some time. You're going to want to get down to the docks, and you'll see to, when you get outside, I will lead you to or head you to the docks with some of our regulars. They'll direct you to the proper sloop, and you can go check on the crew. In the meantime, Anders and I will be having words. Do not go anywhere, she says to Anders. And she turns to the tall man standing with him and says, ensure that he stays seated right here. You got that, Wave Chaser? He nods, just the nod of somebody that's used to attending to people. She leads you downstairs and hooks you up with some of the regulars, and they begin leading you down to the docks. And we are going to go ahead and take a break, because I realize we're about 20 minutes late for a break, as my bladder's reminding me. So, just a reminder that everything is awesome. First off, I want to say just thank you to everybody that's watching with us so far, joining us on our special Halloween game. Thank you to the Dawnbringers for dressing up in costume. I'm not a Dawnbringer, so I just had to go with a costume that I went with. But yeah, thank you to everybody who's tuning in. Thank you to the amazing Chameleon fam, Joey P., for keeping the Dawnbringers flush in domain dice. Also, Spike's contribution as well. We're going to take a brief break of about 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll see how the dwarves and the crew of the Evangeline are doing. So stay with us. We will be back in just a few moments. Hey Internets, it's Jake from Mini Terrain Domain, and this is The Intermission. Mini Terrain Domain, or MTD, is a channel dedicated to the love of and participation in the world of tabletop role-playing games. Whether we're designing encounters or miniature terrain, building worlds or dice towers, or just playing games, everything we do here is because we love this amazing hobby. That is why the mission statement of Mini Terrain Domain is simply imagine, build, play. If you like to watch live play or actual play D&D games, you can do so at twitch.tv/Mini Terrain Domain 3 days a week at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. On Sundays, you can join us for Cult of Personality, a long-running campaign set in the Tomb of Annihilation adventure setting. On Mondays, you can join us for All That Glitters, a Waterdeep Dragon Heist campaign guaranteed to be epic proportions. And every Thursday night, you can join us for Dawnbringers, the Forge of Fury. This is a series of mini campaigns going across the gamut of several well-known modules. Season 1, which is available on youtube.com/Mini Terrain Domain, took place in the Sunless Citadel, and Season 2 is currently taking place in the Forge of Fury. If you can't join us in the chat for our live shows, that's okay. You can usually catch the roleplay, or rather the replay, on YouTube just 2 days later. If you're a fan of what we do here and you'd like to support what we do, there are a variety of ways you can do this. First, simply follow the Twitch channel or hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Next, make sure you follow all of the participants of each game or show on their various social media platforms. To do this, if you're watching live with us on Twitch, you can simply type an exclamation point and that person's name into the Twitch chat, or on YouTube, you can look down below the information bar and all of their links can be found there. Finally, if you would like to provide monetary support, which flows right back into the production of the channel so we can continue making great content, you can join the growing list of patrons on Patreon. Additionally, you can also use Ko-Fi or Coffee to buy a coffee or two. I like coffee. But the absolute best way to support the channel is to follow and subscribe on Twitch and YouTube and join us in the chat. If you have an Amazon Prime account and you link it to your Twitch account, you can subscribe to one channel per month absolutely free. No matter what you decide to do, we are just happy to have you here. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more great content in just a few moments. Remember, metadata!
Hi everyone, I'm V, and I have the YouTube channel, The Crafting Muse. Please be sure to go over there and check it out if you too would like to learn how to make some tabletop terrain, paint miniatures, as well as some game accessories. I'm always happy to have new subscribers over there.
Learn the ways of the Game Master, the Dungeon Master, and delve into the minds of the players. If you're looking for adventure, excitement, thrills, and a dice-rolling good time, grab the modules each month and play the campaign with your gaming group with quest givers DM Scotty and DMG. They're taking you on an epic journey through the role-playing experience every Friday. You're sure to get hooked on adventure.
And we really liked the idea of creating adventures together, so we thought that'd be a lot of fun to share with you guys.
I didn't think this kind of stuff would come out of my brain. We are quest givers, and I'll see you in the next video.
Adventure Mixtape, a music and adventure anthology, is a collection of 4 adventures for the 5th edition of the world's most popular role-playing game. The adventures are setting neutral and meant to be seamlessly dropped into any world that has a large seaside city and a jungle environment. With a bit of adaptation, the environments could be changed to suit any group. In Treaty of the Tiger King by Kelsey Dion of the Arcane Library, a distant king arrives at the city to negotiate the peaceful end of a war, but the mercenary guild has other insidious plans for him. Will the players be able to thwart assassination attempts against King Rami and help him negotiate circles of social intrigue in order to finally end the war? In Madness of the Majestic Menagerie by Ken Brees of Burling's Beard, the famous Majestic Menagerie draws hordes of visitors to the metropolis and cultural hub known since time immemorial as Splendor by the Sea. But now the gates of the famous zoo have been shut, and the grand opening of the new section has been jeopardized by a spate of mysterious accidents and, it's whispered, grievous injuries due to uncontrollable creatures. Mr. Majestic seeks to hire investigators and troubleshooters who can keep a low profile to iron out any problems before the impending grand opening becomes a complete disaster. Do you have what it takes to uncover what's driving the madness that's befallen the Majestic Menagerie? In The Infernal Collection by Sharang Biswas, when an influential fashion designer is found dead days before a major fashion show, heroes are called in to solve the mystery, prevent any further destruction, and help the fashion house prepare for the show. Gorillas in Their Midst by Jacob W. Norman of Mini Terrain Domain is a pulp action adventure wrought with perilous challenges and high possibility of death. But what is adventure without danger? Of course, there is the lure of vast piles of unclaimed treasure and the accompanying fame that await those intrepid adventurers who would defy the odds and plunge into the heart of darkness. In this adventure, the characters will face raging river rapids, wicked waterfalls, poisonous plants, venomous vines, sinking sands, treacherous traps, and the vicious jungle demon itself, Awakane Gori. Grab your satchels, fedoras, and bullwhips. Adventure awaits. The Adventure Mixtape also comes with 4 original songs inspired by and written for the heroic adventures herein. This collection of music and story is something unique. We had no better word for it than mixtape. If you ever received a cassette, CD, or digital playlist curated to take you on a memorable journey, then you'll recognize what you find inside this volume. Also included in the Adventure Mixtape, courtesy of Kelsey Dion of the Arcane Library, are exclusive combat cards. Special cards that contain all of the items, monsters, and spellcasters found within these adventures to make running your adventure all the more easier. Adventure Mixtape, a music and adventure anthology, is available exclusively on drivethrurpg.com.
Griveth, once home to the most wondrous kingdom the world had ever known, blasted to nothing in just a fortnight. It is here that the fiends of hell walk among us. It is here where all things die. Welcome to Griveth. Demon invaders roam the landscape and have conquered all. The world is a ravaged and wrathful wasteland, where the old world lies buried beneath the blood and sand with its gods and its secrets. Water is fought over with blood and steel. Compatible with the 5th edition of the world's oldest fantasy role-playing game, this book contains all new character creation options, including all of the familiar classes with new aspects befitting the ravaged wastelands of Griveth, along with new backgrounds, subclasses, spells, feats, and so much more. New races will allow you to play as the Cursed Ash Elves, the Forsaken Humans, the Primordial Incarnate, the Proud Orcs, the Reptilian Suri, or the Infernal-Blooded Tieflings. New game mechanics such as blood, grit, and effort give your games an intense focus on lethality and survival. Numerous roll tables full of ideas to help bring your games to life. Featuring incredible thematic art by Brandish Gilhelm of Runehammer Games, as well as Lloyd Collins. The people of Griveth are not heroes. In Griveth it is courage just to survive. Will you rise to face the tide of demons, or will you succumb to the hostile elements? Available now on drivethrurpg.com.
And we're back with the amazing Dawnbringers. And once again, I'm going to pull this off. Just giving you the benefit of seeing my Lego face for a minute there.
Talmud shaved.
I think early on, people were taking bets to see how long it was going to be before you died or passed out from the massive beard, Jeremy.
Yeah, I've already taken 2 levels of exhaustion.
Well, see, that's why you need a beard that's, much thinner.
Yeah, I'm wearing a wool kilt, and then that is like all yarn. So, nah, I'm done.
Well, it's definitely awesome seeing everybody in character. So you realize you guys all have to dress like this every week now.
I could do the mohawk every
I
week.
could do
Megan's
the wig.
Megan's human eyes just got huge.
What about just the hat, Megan? Like maybe just the hat. I'll do the wig.
Would your spirit gum like one, one
Just one
third
in a
eye.
different spot every game.
week? That would be hysterical.
Yeah, it's Fig's birthmark.
I love
And like
it.
move it around at break time too. That would be even better.
Like, wait, wasn't that on the other side of your face last time?
Young Frankenstein, right?
White hump.
So
Yes.
you are all taken down to a sloop, a small vessel that will hold all of you, Captain Dervish, and crew, and the contingent of guards as you head out into the harbor and make your way towards the blockade. It appears as though somehow, some way, though you were in a closed council chambers, word seems to have somehow made its way ahead of you, as there are whispering and murmuring amongst the streets and the docks, everybody watching you. And as you approach the blockade, you see that the ships that were forming the blockade have adjusted. Their sails are beginning to fill. And you notice as you move past, picture this, you're in a sloop low to the water and you're moving past close by 2 of these ships. So your view is low, looking up at the decks of these ships, and you see a variety of fishermen all standing on the dock, some of them with a foot up on a rail holding onto a rope. Others just leaning. A couple people stern-faced, holding on to scimitars. All of them have some form of cloth mask up over the lower half of their face as they watch you sail past. You get up next to the Evangeline, and you are able to climb aboard on the side with the ropes that hang over. Dervish quickly jumps up to lead the way with his crew getting up there. Do all of you go clamber aboard the Evangeline as well? What about you, Talmud? I imagine you're not doing so great on this sloop, as it were.
No. He probably would have had to have been talked into even getting on the sloop, truthfully.
I just saw your message in the side chat. Standing on the dock, like waving at Lieutenant Dan. Honestly, if you wanted to, you could have stayed behind at the docks.
Talmud's going to hold down the dock. He's going to make sure it doesn't go anywhere.
All right. Does anybody else stay behind with Talmud, or just Talmud stay behind?
Honestly, Thorgarn is so
I don't imagine Thorgarn staying behind. I don't imagine Cantriel.
No. He is so focused on trying to make sure that the other dwarves are okay that he didn't even stop to think even razz Talmud about getting back on a boat. He is hyper focused on, we need to get there. We need to make sure they're all okay.
Excellent.
I actually think that Fig would stay back, keep Talmud some company.
Okay. All right. So as Cantriel and Thorgarn and Griveth are joining the captain and his crew coming aboard the ship. You see that Dervish is quickly greeted by some of the other crew, the other folks that were on the ship, the ones that had been left behind, many of whom you hadn't yet gotten to know their names. You'd only spent a little bit of time with the crew, actually, and they actually also look pretty well off. Thorgarn not being of the sea, your concern, while admirable for their well-being based on the availability of food and water, the ship was stocked with a couple weeks worth of food and water for journey. But remember, the Evangeline has a unique property in which you travel the distance of 10 days in a single day, or rather in an instant. So, and it's only been about 3 days that has passed. So everybody looks well fed, but they look irritated and bored. And you don't see any of the dwarves on deck. A moment later, Dervish comes up, and he comes right to you, Thorgarn. All right. I spoke with Flint and Carter. Dwarves are all right, but once they got the sense of what was going on, they realized it was probably best to keep out of sight, stay below decks. Sybil says they were coming up on deck at night when it wouldn't be so obvious that they were up there, so they could get some fresh air, rotate through. But you, well, I ain't gonna tell you, you know dwarves. They are not happy being in the hold of that ship for 3 days.
I'm quite certain. I would like to let myself and Griveth take a look, have a conversation. And if there's no issues, Captain, you get to, come back on the sloop with Madam Copperlocks, and your crew can bring the Evangeline in.
All right.
That was the agreement. You okay with that still?
Yeah. Look, I've been in a jail cell for the last few days, and a couple hours ago, I was hanging at the end of a rope until you all showed up. As far as I'm concerned, I'm in your debt.
Nope. Not the way I see it.
Do you trust these people and want to dock here, or would you rather leave?
The thing is, I'd be lying if I said that was the only time I'd had a noose around my neck.
Why am I not surprised?
Hey.
Totally unfounded, right?
Only one of the other 3 times was it at a gallows. Well, the other times, let's just say it was voluntary.
There's no shaming of kink around here, but
we don't need to get into your pastimes, shall we say?
Well, why don't you go ahead, head down below decks, see for yourself, ensure that your people are all right. And, would you look at that? And he moves towards the railing, and you can see already, and Fig and Talmud, you would see this from the shore, that the 3 blockade vessels their sails have filled with wind, and they are moving away from their position. But they are not sailing towards port. They are sailing away.
Can I see the names of the ships?
Give me a perception check.
Oh, why'd you have to say that? Well, since we have that extra die that you're keeping a track of, might as well use it.
yeah, there you go. Make the math easy.
All right, it says a 19. Thanks for the reroll.
Yeah, you can catch as they begin to turn and head away. They do split to move around the Evangeline. But ultimately, as they move to the other side, they link up and they begin moving up the coast, but in the opposite direction of where that where you all had been previously with the slaver's house, and they seem to just be moving at a fairly leisurely pace, but they're just not looking to go into town at the moment, and they don't seem to be heading out to sea. The first one you see is it's called the Favorable Winds. The second one you see is called the Gilded Lily. And the third one that you see is called Dragon's Breath.
I will begin, looking into, or at least having somebody look into information on those guys. Because if they're not, if they're part of the blockade, but they're leaving port, who knows what they've got going on.
Talmud and Fig, as you are kind of watching from afar on the docks, at some point, Talmud, as you sort of, correct me if I'm wrong, but I just don't see Talmud even standing on the dock jutting out into the water, maybe sort of standing at the edge of the dock where it's touching the land.
I mean, you don't want it to disconnect from the land.
Exactly.
And float out into the sea. So he's standing there to make sure that doesn't happen.
As you're standing there and you're sort of kind of trying to see over and maybe looking out, trying to get a look at what's going on, there's an older woman, very weather-checked skin, very tanned, hair pulled back. She looks at you, and she just sort of taps you on the shoulder with something. You see she's got just this thick chaw in her mouth, and she looks at you, she turns, and she spits a big spit off to the side, shifts the chaw around to the other side, and she holds a very worn brass spyglass out to you. I'll see better with this.
Well, thank you very much, madam.
She smiles broadly with a very tobacco-stained gums in an otherwise toothless mouth. Make sure you give it back.
Absolutely,
and so
yes.
You're able to see through this spyglass and observe slightly closer what's happening. And you can see the others on deck, and you see Thorgarn move below decks. You see the ships heading off in the other direction. 1 second. My page shifted. There it is. Let me find it. Yeah. Fig, give me a perception. What's your passive perception?
Passive is 13.
Okay, just give me a perception check.
That's a 12.
Where are you in relation to the dock? Have you gone out to the edge of the dock further? Are you standing with Talmud?
I think he would be standing with Talmud.
As Talmud takes this spyglass and is sort of observing what's happening, you notice that you've been getting quite a few looks, especially here at the docks. There's a group of young boys and girls, all human. They are all barefoot, dirty, You've seen some of them as you've been here, running to and fro, tying off ships, fisher folk and sailors tossing a few coppers their way. They seem to just be some sort of dock urchins running around helping out for a little bit of coin here and there. But they've stopped working, stopped running around, and there's about 5 of them whispering loudly and pointing in your direction as they lean towards one another. Do you think it's one of them? I don't know. It's got to be. I ain't never seen one like that. Definitely ain't never seen one come up on shore. Well, that means if that thing's here, then it's gonna be coming. They always said it was gonna come and it was gonna take its toll on Saltmarsh. And they seem to be talking in circles about this and about you. Do you say or do anything, Fig?
Yeah, this this definitely piques Fig's attention, because I'm sure that he's used to people pointing and talking of like, we don't know what that is, what is that kind of thing. But for the conversation to have some sort of context, he would walk towards the children. Excuse me.
As you walk towards the children, though you are not doing this intentionally, give me a intimidation check.
Okay. It's a 3.
All right. All but one of the children holds their ground. They cluster really close together, and the closer you get, the one seems to be trying to stay with them. And as soon as you open your mouth, you just hear the as the feet patter along the docks as it just runs away, or he just runs away. You walk up to them and you said, "What did you say? Excuse me."
Mm-hmm.
What?
I am sorry to eavesdrop, but I couldn't help but notice that you were talking about me.
Yes. Please
May I
don't
ask-
kill us. Please don't kill us. Please don't turn us into whatever you are.
Having metal for limbs would be the worst thing? Worse than death?
What is your intimidation score?
+0.
So what's your charisma score?
10.
Oh, okay. So that would be a 10 for passive intimidation. 2 more. Whoops, that one's gone. 1 more of the kids just breaks off into a run, leaving 3 of them. You want to rip off our arms and replace them with metal arms?
That is not what I said at all. But I could see how the context of what I'm speaking would connotate that kind of response from you.
But that's what the pirates of the Dreadnought do, right?
Pirates of the Dreadnought?
Aren't you one of the pirates of the Dreadnought?
No, I am known by another name. I am a Dawnbringer. And last time I checked, we had not changed our name. But I am out of the loop on many things.
One of the boys seems to be getting a little more relaxed, though they're still they have that fight or flight look. So you don't sail on the Dreadnought?
No, I do not.
But we heard that it was metal pirates that are all aboard the Dreadnought. Do you
And who
even
told
know
you
what it
this?
is?
I'm afraid I do not.
The Dreadnought, they say the Dreadnought is a warship, but it doesn't have any masts or sails. It's covered in iron plates that are black as the night sky. They say that it's captained by a mad old wizard that's 15 feet tall and has 2 heads. And his name is Vigor Thras. That he captures sailors and fishermen and turns them into metal pirates. His entire crew is nothing but metal pirates. And the legends say that one night, when there's no stars, the Dreadnought will sail into port. And the Captain Vigor Thras and his metal pirates will stake their claim on Saltmarsh. We thought for sure you was heralding the coming of the Dreadnought.
Who has told you these stories?
Well, they just known. They've been known since we were little kids.
So you knew this since you were born. No one has told you.
Well, I mean, not since we were born. Somebody, I don't know. I just feel like I always known it. Somebody told us. My older brother told me. My dad told me about it.
Well, I would not worry. I am not a member of the Dreadnought, and I have seen stars every night, as far as we are here.
Okay, if you say so. And they slowly are kind of backing away. And if you don't, do you approach them any further as they start backing away? They're literally, as the group of 3, taking a step backwards as one, and then taking another step backwards.
Fig would pick up some stones off the ground, and he would cover his hands in them, like cup them in his hands. And when he holds them out, they're little tiny gold nuggets. And he would hold them out to some of the kids.
They seem very hesitant at first, and they look, the other two that are left, they look to the one that was sort of leading and talking. For us?
Yes. They will turn back to normal stone, but they would probably give you something to eat.
I told you it wasn't one of the Dreadnought pirates. And he reaches out and grabs at him. The other 2 boys immediately, once he has them in his hands, the 3 of them, they start moving away, and they're sort of jostling with one another, trying to get at him. And a couple of them pull away a couple of these gold stones. And as they get about 15 feet away, the one kid that was leading sort of stops, and the other 2 continue moving, and he just stops and looks at you. Thanks. And then takes off running.
Fig would call out, "You have an hour."
Can Talmud have heard part of that conversation?
You would have been privy to the whole thing. It all happened pretty much right next to you.
Perfect.
Thorgarn, back on the ship as all of this is happening, you find that though a bit surly, Manistrad and the dwarves are all doing really well. Of course, the dwarves are complaining about the food. It's nothing like back home. A lot of dry rations. As you'll remember, Roland the cook had somehow managed to escape and was on shore. So they've been eating a lot of dry rations, a lot of stale bread. They're really tired of eating fruit. You hear that complaint a lot.
So I mean, we don't have to go, into detail with it. I would just basically tell Manistrad that her and the captain come with us on the sloop. The crew can pilot the ship in because if everybody's in the clear, we can get them on board. We can get them off the ship.
Absolutely. And the dwarves there's a bit of cheering, and they even break out into a bit of a mining song at the thought of finally they know they're going to get off of this cursed ship. And they're true dwarves. They just want to get underground now more than ever.
And I would go with that, like I didn't spend a whole lot of time mining, but I mean, as a dwarf, you try everything to see what you're good at. So I mean, I would definitely know the songs. I'd chime in with them.
Griveth and Cantriel, did you go below deck with Thorgarn? Did you stay up top while Dervish is talking to the crew?
I would have stayed up top and sort of kept surveillance over what's happening.
I had asked Griveth to come down with me because he would probably be better able to, check their well-being, and if they needed healing, he is a far better healer than I am.
Griveth,
he definitely would have went because
okay.
for the disease and as well as their well-being, right?
So Griveth, go ahead and just give me a medicine check.
Okay.
So I would be assisting, so you can.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
cool.
do so with advantage.
Nice. 22.
You find that overwhelmingly the dwarves are physically in pretty good shape, though many of them complain that their muscles are atrophying because they haven't swung a pick in so long. You know for a fact it's only been 3 days, 4 days at most since you left port on the Sword Coast, though it had been a good I believe it took you guys a 10-day to get from Blazingdell to the port city of I'm trying to remember if you guys, I think you sailed out of Luskin. So I mean, but it's only been a week and a half. But they make it sound like it's been years, and that they're too frail, and they'll be looked down. There's a lot of complaining, a lot of belly aching, but they're in pretty good spirits, and overwhelmingly, as they find out that they will be able to return to shore, they begin clapping you on the shoulder, on the elbow, on the arm, Griveth, and kind of you're involuntarily kind of swaying with them as they start singing these mining songs. Up top, Cantriel, after a time, you would hear singing coming from below decks, but Dervish says you hear him as he's giving orders to the crew, and specifically to Arnold the bosun, who will effectively be in charge, though technically, and there is a bit of argument from Victor, the spectator, who argues that he should be the one to captain the ship and be in charge since he is the first mate. Arnold seems used to dealing with Victor, and says to the captain, "Don't worry, I got it." And Victor does begin barking orders at people, many of which don't even sound like they have anything to do with how to maneuver a ship. And Arnold is going around, starts giving real orders to the crew. But Dervish, you do hear him tell Arnold, we got to play this one straight. Just don't even try anything. I know you're going to be thinking we're going to get the heck out of here and move on to safer ports, but well, we're going to have to ride this one out, and we don't want to give them any reason to doubt anything about us. Hopefully they're feeling pretty bad with their tail tucked between their legs after Let me just tell you, you should have seen this one laying into that councilwoman as he's indicating you, Cantriel. I tell you what, I do not want to be on your bad side.
That was my good side.
Oh, good lords. All right, well, as it stands, and he talks to Giselle and Matilda. You all stay here. And we're gonna head back. I have no choice. I gotta go back. Get into port. Get the ship unloaded. Get these dwarves to work. And stay with the ship as much as you can. Tell the crew to keep a low profile in the taverns. And yeah. At some point, we're gonna need to talk. He says to you, Cantriel. And I imagine Thorgarn, you probably eventually you make your way up top. Manistrad comes with you. A few of the dwarves come up. Though Manistrad did, with some difficulty, convince the dwarves to not to come up on deck singing so boldly and essentially spitting in the faces of those around them. So they're staying below deck. She comes up on deck, and as Dervish says this, Cantriel, we're going to need to talk, but it looks like that one, he's looking like he wants to talk to you, so we'll get a chance maybe at the Wicker Goat. I'll buy you a drink.
That sounds agreeable. How's the neck doing?
Like I said, it's not my first time.
Oh, of course not.
All right, well, I'm going to check a couple things before we get out of here. Give you and your friend a chance to talk, and yeah. So you see Dervish give you a look, kind of a nod, Thorgarn, and he leaves Cantriel alone at the rail. If you choose to, this would be a good time for you to have a conversation with Cantriel, or you can wait until you're in town.
No, it's fine to do it here. So, lots been going on, Cantriel, and I might not always look like the one who's deep in thought or got things going on. Elves and dwarves tend to see things differently. But we had kind of a heated debate in the basement of that house. And there's some things that you said that kind of stuck with me. And I was hoping we might be able to have a bit of a word.
Well, we can have a bit of a word, or we can have a conversation.
Have a conversation then. So, first and foremost, I've had some hardships, and I've tried to make the right decisions in the things that I do. And most of the time that we've been kind of traveling and working together, we've been up against monsters, things that aren't really alive. And I've, rushed into battle as most of our other companions without really thinking about what the other thing is. And when we fought those bandits, I was thinking solely about trying to save my kin. But I can still see the faces of those men who were slain, whether they were by my hand or not. We still killed humans. They were bad. They weren't always doing the right thing. Yeah, we let 2 of them go, but there's at least 3 that aren't still walking. And then there was more even below that we put the blade or spell or what have you. I'm trying to be on the right path. And I'm hoping that, I'm hoping I'm doing the right thing. So if you see me stepping out of line or doing things that you don't think are right, don't be afraid to call me on it. But the other thing is that woman, when we let her go, you didn't say you were Cantriel. You said you were Triel. And I'm not the best at observing people's words, but you seemed different when you gave that name. I don't want to pry if it's not anything that you feel comfortable sharing, or maybe you don't know me well enough. I mean, I've traveled with you less than Griveth or Talmud, but I just want to know what's that.
That's a fair enough question. Let's just say there are parts of her past that I can identify with my own. When my family was taken, I truly had no one at all. And my father was a scholar. He was not a man of means. So Triel had to do what Triel had to do to make her way in the world, until I was lucky enough to meet someone who taught me how to better take care of myself, to learn that there are different ways of using talents, to take pride in the fact that I could be Cantriel and not just some girl trying to figure things out. Triel is a name I'll give to those where I feel safe enough to feel vulnerable. Trust them with a name that I rarely use anymore.
Well, like I said, I don't mean to pry, and hopefully someday, the rest of us Dawnbringers, you will feel comfortable and safe around. I wasn't always spirit caller, as the moniker has been given to me by other kinfolk. Yeah, I know that my oddities of talking to the spirits that only seem to manifest when I get mad, but they're always there. And they're always there because they haunt me, whether it's because they're looking out for me or whether they blame me. And I've shared some of my past. I was supposed to be properly anointed as a priest, and the orcs, killed everyone but me.
And I was supposed to be a married woman.
I've been down that dark road where I've only had to rely on myself, and that's where the animal, the rage, the monster, whatever you want to call what I became, it's what I had to do. So I understand that hardship. I understand not having anyone else to rely upon. So if you ever feel that you want to divulge more, if you want to explain more and just have someone else, I'm there as a friend.
I do appreciate that, Thorgarn. Very much so.
Well, we got a boat to get in. I don't want to hold things up any longer than they've already done so. But whether you see it or not, the words that you shared in our argument have had a profound change in my mindset. And I'm going to be trying to hold my own. I think that mayhaps the gods made me wait for my invocation, my anointing, whatever you want to call it, to push me on the path that I'm on. And while it's silly to use such a term, I want to be a hero. I want to help people. And that's why I dove in the water to save those people from drowning. So those are the moments that I look forward to. And
There's nothing silly about wanting to be a hero and making the world better. If anything, it's quite a noble calling that not everyone is willing to answer.
Well, thank you for that.
Hey, Dawnbringers, these dwarves want to get ashore.
Then there's that one.
What are you guys doing down there?
Making out. That'll give them something to work on.
And so we see that the captain and the guards and you are brought back. You load up on the sloop. You meet back up at the docks. Shortly right behind you, piloted by the remaining crew, the Evangeline comes in and is able to dock. The gangplank is let down, and the 25 dwarves plus Manistrad Copperlock all disembark from the Evangeline. Fig and Talmud, you noticed that as the Evangeline was coming in to dock, that there was some grumbling as people began to gather. But then you noticed that there were others that were moving in, telling those that were grumbling to shut their gods dang mouths, to get the hell back, and sort of pushing people back. And you watch as many of the, what you can only assume were the traditionalists, are pushed towards the back, and the loyalists form a corridor to allow the dwarves to pass through. And you all hear the applause as the loyalists are applauding the arrival of the dwarves. Manistrad at their lead, heading them off in the direction of the mine. We cross-dissolve over to the hill where that haunted house is. And mechanically, I know it probably would have wore off, but for flavor's sake, we see Eleander Fireborn as some of the guards are moving into the house. He's looking around in the garden. He sees a golden ferret, and he looks at it kind of curiously and just puts it back where he found it. We see them coming up to the house, and Zelamar rushing to his sister, the other refugees coming out. And you see already that we see that somebody's sweeping the front steps. They're already beginning to do some cleanup and stuff. And we see Eleander down in the caverns and looking at where the slaves were brought in, standing in that cavern as the tide has gone out, and just shaking his head as he looks out the horizon where the sea ghost had gotten away. Night falls eventually. Lanterns are lit. Fishing vessels come back to dock. Things begin to start to return to normal. Fishermen, fisherfolk, other people begin filtering into taverns and begin eating, drinking, singing. In the distance, we see, as you move away from Saltmarsh just a little ways, the sky, the night sky is filled with stars. Along the horizon, several miles out away from Saltmarsh, a few stars flicker and vanish, and then reappear a moment later. A few more flicker and vanish as we see some large pitch black shape moving along the horizon in the waters, momentarily blocking the stars out. And that is where we'll end tonight's session. All right. So, tonight was our Halloween spooktacular. I guess it wasn't really spooky. But a lot of really good, just really awesome. I love these RP heavy sessions. And something for the Dawnbringers to think about is one, and this is for all of you who are still watching as well, there will be no Dawnbringers next week, as we'll be down 3 players. So there will be no Dawnbringer session next week. But we will return. We're hoping to get at least a couple more sessions in before the holidays kick in, and we are planning on taking a winter hiatus through December. We did decide to do that, but something to look forward to. Probably right around, we got to figure out the details, but sometime one of those Thursdays in December, we are going to have a special Q&A session where we'll talk about the campaign, and I might ask some questions of the players, of their characters, and it'll be an opportunity for you in the audience, you in the chat, to throw some questions, and we'll answer those questions the best we can. But for you Dawnbringers to think about, you've just finished one of the missions. You've also kind of moved forward from the unfortunate situation that arose when you arrived in Saltmarsh with Dervish. There's still a few things that are in play. You've recently leveled up, and you finally are going to have a chance to get to explore the town of Saltmarsh. So it's going to open up a little bit. This is what I talked about. Saltmarsh we're handling a little bit like an open sandbox. Or a closed sandbox. There's a lot of stuff for you to do to figure things out. There are, and I will touch base with you all offline, but there are unique downtime activities specific to Saltmarsh, but there's the usual downtime activities. If you want to peruse Xanathar's, which has the kind of expanded downtime activities, or some of you have reached out to me with specific things that you want to try and some general things. But think about that as we move into the next session. We'll do a little bit of the downtime activities. It's a chance for you to, do whatever, more or less, do whatever you want to do. If you want to do some research, learn some information, get to know some people, question some people, get to know some people better, whatever that may be. So just think about that. You got a couple weeks to think on that. I want to thank everybody in the chat tonight. It was just such an active chat tonight. I love seeing everybody in there, a lot of regulars, and it seems like each week some new people show up. Thanks for spending Halloween evening with us. And of course, I have to call out Chameleon Fam, aka Joey P, in the chat for dropping quite a bit there in terms of domain dice through donations, through tips. Also, our good friend Spike, who comes in every week and is a wonderful supporter. And I got to tell you, head over to the Mini Terrain Domain Facebook page, because just about every week now, Spike has been putting in some awesome little Photoshop compositions of the Dawnbringers. They're absolutely awesome to see, and he's been posting those over there each week. Thank you to, and I totally missed this, Tamiko. I apologize for completely missing this, but it looks like quite a while ago, Tamiko gifted the subscription. I guess you did benefit from that. I saw the notification that Erasmus Expeditions was subscribed and awarded the appropriate domain die, but I did not see that was gifted from Tamiko, so thank you for that. Starin for the resubscription, Star 19. I don't often promote this because Fellowship of the Tables is always doing it, but we do have a Discord. The link is down below on Twitch here in the panels. And there's a few things going on there. I'm hoping to kind of kick that up a little bit again. I want to do some more stuff with that. So check that out. All the usual stuff, you know. If you're not already following the channel, follow it. Consider subscribing. It's through subscriptions that support the channel, and we were able to unlock that awesome improvised ham emote. And finally, I just want to thank, as always, Scotty, V, Megan, Ted, and Jeremy. You guys always make Thursday nights enjoyable. I love having all of these threads of your individual character stories and seeing how you react as I sort of put little pieces of story nuggets out there for each of you, and you guys give back, and that we can be silly and dress up and have fun, but also have serious conversations in character and just exist in this world together. It's awesome. We've been doing this for over a year now, and it's been great to see your characters grow and to see us grow as a family, as friends and family. So thank you once again for making my and all of our Thursdays so enjoyable. Everybody, have a wonderful night. Enjoy the last remaining bit of time, depending on your time zone, of Halloween as we prepare to move into November. We're going to go ahead and we're going to get out of here. And we're going to end this stream the same way we end every stream. I'm going to try that again because for some reason I sound like I'm really solemn, like I'm saying goodbye or something, and I'm not. I mean, I am for the stream, but let's try that again. Thank you, everybody. We're going to go ahead and end the stream tonight. We're going to end it the same way we end it every week, and you can say it with me if you want.